So you went to your doctor for a regular wellness visit or checkup and come to find out that you have insulin resistance. But there's not a whole lot of time for your doctor to explain exactly what insulin resistance means, the nuances, and how to treat insulin resistance with lifestyle and diet. Well, if you give me a few minutes of your time today, I'm going to share with you exactly what insulin resistance is and what it means for your body, and a couple primary ways that you can treat insulin resistance through diet and lifestyle changes. Today, we'll focus primarily on diet interventions for insulin resistance, but we can, of course, dive deeper into other types of interventions for insulin resistance because luckily for you, there are a lot of different changes that you can make in your life, whether it be food, supplements, exercise, and medications that can help support insulin resistance and get those numbers back down. So let's talk about it. So what happens when we eat foods, namely carbohydrates and proteins, is our body breaks that food down in our digestive system and it eventually absorbs it into our bloodstream as glucose. So glucose is floating around in our bloodstream after we digest it, but we need to be able to move that glucose into our cells to use that for energy so we can function day to day, whether that be our mental energy, our physical energy, for our muscles, all of those things. So our pancreas then secretes insulin to help move the glucose from our bloodstream into the cells for use. And there's an analogy used for glucose and insulin that kind of helps paint the picture of how both work together. We like to call insulin the key to the door of the cell. So when glucose comes knocking at the door, insulin is the key that goes into the cell and opens that door, opens that lock up, and the glucose flows in so it can be used for ATP or energy. But when we have insulin resistance, that lock has a little rust on it. It's not working as well as it once did. It's still doing its job a little bit, but it's not doing it very well and it's getting jammed a lot. So there's a lot of glucose that's still floating around in your bloodstream and not getting into the cell to be used for energy. And what your body does as a result to try to overcompensate for that lack of getting glucose into the cell is it secretes insulin over and over to overcompensate and to try to continue to get the glucose to be used. And insulin by no means is a negative thing, but when we have an excess excretion of insulin, what can happen is insulin is also a hunger hormone. It increases hunger for carbohydrates, increases cravings for sweets. It can also make our body hold on to adiposity in our midsection especially, so it can make us accumulate fat and make weight loss way more difficult because, again, our body is just secreting so much insulin that it's really blocking our ability to lose weight the way we once did. So I hear all the time, I am doing the exact same thing as I used to do 5 years ago, and now all of a sudden I'm gaining weight. Usually that is one big red flag that shows me that there may be some insulin resistance present, and usually we can confirm this with labs. The labs that I want you to get, if you haven't already got them from your doctor, because sometimes doctors don't order all three of these things because, they cost money and insurance and things like that. You want to do your fasting glucose, your fasting insulin, and your A1C. Your glucose is just a measure of your blood glucose in that moment. Your A1C is your average glucose over the span of 3 months, equated into a number to define whether or not you are pre-diabetic, diabetic, or within normal range for that 3-month period. And insulin is, of course, measuring the amount of insulin that's being secreted. So it can kind of show signs of over-secretion or overproduction of insulin and how that combines with your blood glucose. Usually we do a extra score called the HOMA-IR score, which is a measure of your body's insulin resistance, which you need need the fasting glucose for and fasting insulin for to put it into an equation. I can leave a calculator below if you want to do that when you have those numbers by yourself, because doctors don't always do this for you. Sometimes if you have a specialist in metabolic health, they might do it for you. But if you need to do it on your own, you just need those two numbers to be able to do it. So that is, in a nutshell, what insulin resistance means for how it affects your body, and how it can affect weight management, how it can affect hunger signals too. You may be experiencing, again, a lot of more cravings, a lot more adiposity in the midsection and things like that. And sometimes even like lower energy, more fogginess in the brain, or feeling like you are hungry directly after a meal as a result of insulin resistance that is unmanaged. But like we said, there are a few ways that you can manage through diet and other aspects. But let's talk about the core 4 things that I like to recommend for better insulin management. And yes, keep in mind, this is from an evidence-based perspective, not from internet gurus. So it may go against some of the things that you've been told online. Sit with me, trust me. I have worked with so many folks and measured their labs before and after we've implemented these changes, and I have seen so much success across the board with so many people. So trust me when I say this is what works for a majority of folks based on the science and based on my experience. So here we go. Guideline number 1 is eating 4 to 6 times a day. Why I find this works is you are eating small, frequent meals, so it gives your body more of a chance to process the glucose that's going to be in those meals. Naturally, you're going to spread them out over several times a day versus having big giant meals once or twice a day. And that glucose load is in and of itself going to allow insulin to slowly be secreted and spread across the day in little blips versus big giant ones, making it go really high and making it go really low and making it go really high and making it go low again. This also keeps your hunger in check. It keeps your energy steady throughout the day, so you're not as tempted to have those cravings. Again, that is it's because you're eating frequently, but also because you're leveling out your blood sugar throughout the day. So I really recommend, if you're on the lower side, even 4 meals a day is still a positive. If you're starting from 1 meal a day, just go to maybe 3 meals a day minimum. It's okay to build up. You don't have to go straight to 6 from 0 or 1. Hopefully you're eating at least once a day, but you don't have to go to the highest amount. Go with where your natural inclination is, but try to at least have 3 square meals a day and 1 snack. That is going to help your blood sugar tremendously. Guideline number 2 is consistent timing. So your body does kind of adapt to the timing of your meals per day. You'll notice if you don't have breakfast for years and years, your body kind of gets accustomed to that. But then if you start eating at 8 o'clock every single morning, then your body naturally gets a little growl first thing in the morning because it's prepared to have food, and it's also preparing that insulin to work too. So the more that we have consistent meal timing, the better, because our body is going to be used to that. It just gives a little bit of predictability to the way your hormones function. Additionally, consistent timing also means just not skipping meals. I see a lot of this with the folks that I work with, is just skipping meals because we're too busy or we're not hungry or we just have better things to do in life, which I totally get. Life is busy and chaotic and crazy, especially as a mom of 2 under 3 right now. I completely understand that, but it's so important to get consistent meals in because you are going to feel so much better after that. Your blood glucose is going to thank you, and you are going to have, again, that body predictability. Guideline number 3 is a protein-heavy breakfast. So the way we start our day really impacts the whole day as an entirety. So if we were to have, say, a donut as an extreme example first thing in the morning versus a high protein breakfast, like say protein overnight oats or eggs and toast with a little bit of bacon, for example. Even if we had the exact same foods the rest of the day, because we had a different dynamic first thing in the morning, sugar versus a protein heavy breakfast, our blood sugar is actually going to respond totally differently the rest of the day. So if you have a glucose monitor, you can see this firsthand, how our body reacts to a carb heavy meal versus a protein heavy meal. I would aim for about 20 to 30 grams of protein in the morning if you can most days, because you are going to feel so much more satiated and your blood glucose is going to again respond at a more level response throughout the day. And guideline number 4 for better blood sugar and insulin is to always marry your carbs with a protein or a fat. If you take 1 or 2 takeaways from this video, I think eating small, consistent meals and this one right here are the two to really take away, because they're going to make the biggest impact on your diet overall. So when I say marry a carb, here's a couple examples of what I mean. So instead of just having a piece of fruit, which is primarily carbohydrates by itself, that's a healthy choice, right? But for blood sugar in particular, it's going to raise your blood sugar and then kind of slowly crash it back down. It's not going to give you a whole lot of lasting energy. Versus if you were to have an apple with peanut butter, or a peanut butter and a banana, or banana and Greek yogurt, things like that. Always try to pair your carbs with something else so it has something to float around with it. So the glucose curve is a little more moderate and slowly coming back down, versus again, those big spikes really quickly and crashing back down quickly. I have a lot of good handouts on this that I like to share with my clients. So if you're interested in that, I can set up a little thing below where you can download it. If you're interested, let me know. I also have some meal plans that are PCOS and insulin resistance friendly. Even if you don't have PCOS, still applies to you. So if you want to download that, I will leave a link to that below. And let me know what other questions you have on insulin resistance. I'm getting back into the flow of creating more content again, and I'm happy to be here. So I want to be sure that I'm answering all of your burning questions. So drop your comment below and let me know what was the biggest takeaway from this video too. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. And hit the subscribe button if you want to watch more videos and hang out with me every week on the channel. And if I didn't say it already, my name is Katie. I'm a registered dietitian and certified personal trainer, and I specialize in women's metabolic health, particularly women with PCOS and insulin resistance, but I also work with all types of women, whether it be with thyroid conditions or going into perimenopause, menopause, and really all the struggles that go into those different chapters of life, even postpartum as well, which I'm a year postpartum myself. So if you have more questions about women's health, definitely drop them below. I hope this video made an impact on your day, and I will chat with you and see you again soon. Bye guys.